Hello and welcome to episode 59 of Little Big Knits. My name is Selma. I'm coming to you from here in Ottawa, Canada, where I live with my family and our cat Yoda. And welcome to this episode, those of you who just found the podcast and those of you who have been around for quite some time. Hello to you all and Happy New Year. Last time I podcasted, it was just before the change of year, and here we are later in January. Hopefully the year has started off well for you. I have to say it has started out fairly well for us. We're back in a sort of a somewhat of a lockdown, so it's been a little bit quieter, but that's kind of okay. I've been enjoying my evenings, knitting, watching podcasts, watching the news. I haven't watched a whole lot of anything else, to be honest. But yeah, the year has started off well. We've got extremely cold weather, so I haven't been out a whole lot. Once snowshoeing, a tiny bit of walking. But yeah, it's been a bit of a quieter year because of the lockdown and the weather. But that's okay. So welcome to you all. Welcome those of you who are new. There are quite a few of you out there. I hope you'll continue to enjoy watching the podcast if you've stuck around. And hello to those of you who come back every week. It's so nice to have you here. Welcome into my little living room in my home. So hello. And I wanted to thank you so much for the wonderful comments. And first of all, two things. We've got a giveaway today, and so people commented below as an entry for the giveaway, and I just had so much fun reading through those 586. It took me some time, I must say. I had a hard time keeping up with them, but it was absolutely a joy to read every single one of them and just see how many of you were able to find joy last year. Some of us a little bit less, but looking forward to a better 2022. And how many of you found that the knitting community was a great support? And I'm so glad that we do have one another, all the podcasters as well as the online community. It is quite fantastic. And so it was just really heartwarming to read all of those comments, and I will pull the giveaway winner a little bit later. I did the random generator thingamajiggy this morning. And then also, thank you so much for the reception of the West Village skirt. I have to say I was really, truly blown away. I honestly did not think that people would be as excited about the skirt as you have been, or they have been. Last year when I published the Westboro hat, as you'll recall if you've been around, I did the same thing where for the first week, the proceeds, 100% of the proceeds went to a charity, and I was able to raise $1,000. This time, now the pattern is half the price of this one, but one would think that perhaps I honestly didn't think I would sell as many of the skirt patterns, but I have raised $2,700, which is going to be going, well, actually I sent it this morning because I'd been taking a while to do that, has gone to Tewagan, which is a local charity that does work with Indigenous youth. So I was completely blown away. I really did not expect that kind of a reception of the skirt pattern. So most importantly, I was able to send a large amount of money totally blowing me away. And secondly, I really hope that you enjoy the skirt pattern. I've seen a couple of interesting comments already of things that perhaps I could modify on it later, but people have also said that it's really well written and very clear. So I hope that if you have bought it, that you will make the skirt, that you will enjoy it, or if you've made it for somebody else, that they will enjoy it. So yeah, so thank you so much for that. And I'll draw the winner for the giveaway a little bit later. We've got just a couple of other little things that I wanted to mention to you before we get on to talking about the finished objects. First, we've got 2 knit-alongs going along. So if you are interested in working on the West Village skirt, we have a knit-along going on Ravelry in the Little Big Knits group, as well as a hashtag on Instagram. If you want to share there, you can either share with West Village Skirt or West Village Skirt Cal. And then there is also the LBK Connections Mal. So that is all about knitting to bring connection, which, as you may recall, was part of my word. My word had sort of like 2 components to it. So the LBK Connections Mal is a make along, so accepting any of the crafts where you have been given the materials or the pattern, or you are making something for someone else. So the idea is that whatever you're making is a connection to someone else in some way. And honestly, I have to say that thread is already absolutely wonderful, very heartwarming, and really, really lovely. Already finished objects, people are making things. Whips are welcome, just so you know. There are notes at the top of the project, of the thread, and the chat and the finished object is thread are both together. It's just all in one. And yeah, that is going really, really strongly. So let's begin with the knitting. So I am wearing what I was working on last time, which is the Magnolia Bloom by Camilla Bad. I've shown this to you already a couple of times because I had started it, I think I started it in late November, and then it took a back seat as I got into Christmas knitting, and then once Christmas knitting was done, I finished it. You've possibly, if you're on Instagram, seen my finished objects on Instagram, but I really, really love this sweater. This is a top-down yoke sweater, knit in a sort of bulky weight, knit with 7mm needles. And I'll just see if I can stand up. I've got a pile of stuff here. So it is absolutely lovely. I have been wearing it tons, and I am just absolutely in love with it. I'm just noticing that one of the baubles isn't quite sticking out. Some of the baubles, some of the baubles really stick out, and then some of the baubles don't, and I have to coax them. But I find the yoke extremely flattering. It's a little bit see-through because of the large yarn overs, but it doesn't bother me. And I have to say, most of the time I have a t-shirt under this. It's perfect, it's wonderful. It's lightly warm enough for in the house and on a not so cold day under my coat. If it's really cold, then I put something else underneath it. But I've really been enjoying wearing this already. Really, really nice. I mentioned to you, actually I had it in another bag, but I moved it into this bag that I'd gotten myself for Christmas, this Lolubee's bag. Really love this bag. Well, excuse me, I'm not going to answer that. It's usually a telemarketer. We've been thinking about getting rid of our landline, in fact. I was knitting it on 2 yarns. The Rauma Alpaca Lin, which is a 48% alpaca, 8% wool, and 40% linen. And then the Remix Light, which is a nylon, cotton, acrylic, silk, and linen blend as well. So it was primarily plant-based, except for the alpaca in this yarn. It's still nicely warm. It's just, you know, you'd think that 2 woolly yarns together would create a very warm fabric, so it's a little bit less warm than that. But it's fluffy, it's cozy, it's comfy, it's pretty. I very much like it. I have to say. What I can tell you about this is that I did do a couple of, sorry, I'm looking down because I'm trying to make sure that I don't forget. I did a couple of little modifications. The original pattern has a double neck where you knit, and it's a fold over neck. And I know from the Noux Sweater that I knit last year, the Sari Nordland pattern, it had a double neck, which I did because I was testing it, but I didn't like it. I think this probably would have been okay. I think that with the Cascade 220, it was a little too present for my liking. And so I decided to just do a regular 1x1 rib. The other modification I did was that I knit the lower ribs with, I went down, I think in the pattern you didn't go down, at least not on the body, and I went down to, I knit the sweater in 7.5 millimeters, I knit the ribbing I think in 5.5 millimeters, so I went down quite a bit in both the ribbing here and the ribbing at the body, and I'm glad I did. I find it a little weird when they don't go down in a needle size because ribbing can tend to kind of flay out a bit, or flare out, I should say. And so I find that going down a needle size or 2, or in this case 3, then it sort of keeps it in a little bit. And it certainly isn't tight by any means. It just sits a little bit more straight, I find. So that's the second thing I did. And then when I got to the arm, to the body and sleeve separation, I tried it on and I thought, I feel like the arms are gonna be a little too loose. And they're certainly not tight by any means. So I took 4 stitches, which came to about 1 inch, 4 stitches, because it's a rather bulky sweater. I took 4 stitches off of the sleeves, putting 2 here, 2 here, 2 on the back and 2 on the back. So I ended up with 4 more stitches on the body and 4 less stitches on the arms, just because I felt like I wanted the body to be looser than the arms. And I'm glad I did. I think it worked out. I think it worked out well. Not a huge difference, but you know, just made me more comfortable with moving forward with the sweater. So those are the 3 things that I did. I have 4 other finished objects. So here we go. Last time I was knitting the 3rd ripple bralette, and I'll just put a picture here. This was knit out of Sadness Garn Tunline, which is a plant-based fiber. I think yarn, I think it had, what did it have in it? Cotton, linen, and viscose, I believe. And I knit this for a young lady who was on her way to Glasgow, and I finished it and gave it to her. It fit her beautifully. I didn't get pictures with her. I only ended up getting a picture of it on a hanger, but hopefully she'll send me a picture of it at some point. And off she went on her trip with her new ripple bralette. Really, really enjoy that pattern. I've spoken to you about it before. I would make it again, although right now I don't have any requests, so I'm not going to make it for now. I'm enjoying other knitting, but I made 3 of those that one I finished this year, but I've made 3 of them in the last 6 months for some young women who were interested in it. And I really enjoyed it. Jessie May's got some fabulous designs, really great designer. So, and has other types of tanks and bralettes as well. And you may recall that I made the outline tee last summer, which is a pattern of hers in linen. So that's another finished object. I also finished my Christmas cast on, one of my Christmas cast ons, I should say, which were these wonderful socks knit out of West Yorkshire spinner yarn in their signature 4-ply striped in the Robin colorway. I had made a pair last year. This was a skein that my friend Holly had given me, so perfect for the LBK Connections Mal. And I had enough to make a second pair, and I had enough to make another little something that I'm going to show you. And I still have enough that I'll probably make another little something with. But yeah, this is great. I knit them cuffed down, had 60 stitches, and they are lovely and cozy. I haven't worn them yet because I wanted to show them on the podcast, but I think that because it's winter, I could still wear these. So I may just put them on. So that is another one of my finished objects for 2022. So let me show you the other thing that I did. It's in a little Christmas bag. It's gonna continue to be in this bag because I've decided, I don't know if you've watched a new podcast called The Thoughtful Knitter. This is a podcast with Ailey. Ailey and I have known each other since 2019 because we were both at the Ullen retreat together, and we've met up on Zoom with the Ullen group a few times here and there. And Ailey has started a podcast. She lives in Shetland and has a lovely, lovely podcast that I think she has 7 or 8 episodes of, and is a wonderful knitter. And in her last episode before Christmas, she had actually, I think it was on the fireplace, she had a string of socks. And I thought, that is a great idea. So I decided to start making some little mini socks. Is this the cutest thing or what? I can't share the pattern because it doesn't exist on Ravelry, and Ailey had just sort of given me the coordinations or the coordinates of how to do it. But I looked on Ravelry, and there are lots of little mini skein types of patterns. I really, really enjoyed this. So it's essentially the same yarn. I just turned it into a little mini sock. And I've decided that I want to make lots of these. I wish I had blockers for them, but I think what I'm going to do is just steam block them at the end before they get hung up so they end up nice and flat. And I'm thinking of making some sort of a garland for next Christmas for somewhere. My fireplace gets quite nicely decorated, so I probably won't do it there. I'll probably do it somewhere else in the house. But I'm really quite excited about these little socks. And I've started the red one that I'm using what I used for the heels, toes, and cuffs for that yarn, for the socks, which is Sadness Garn Sisu in this red colorway. And so I'm making a little red sock, and it'll get done when it gets done. But I've also been thinking about doing little mini sweaters, and I definitely have enough of this yarn to make a mini sweater. So that might come next. We'll see. That's been really, really fun. I'm doing them on 2.75 millimeter needles, and I need to find a better pair in my stash because these are some arrow needles, and the join is really not very good here, and I'm constantly having to push, and I don't have many stitches to go through before I have to push the needle on for the other side, so it's quite irritating to knit with these needles. But I know I have another pair in the house. I was just too lazy. But I will, because I don't think that I'm going to enjoy knitting however many pairs I come up with over this year with these needles. Ideally, what I was thinking, that it would be nice to make 1 or 2 a month, and then have a bunch of them to string together in some way. I know that Ailey's had a crochet at the top, and I did not do that. So I'm not 100% sure. I might cut this and just crochet backwards and kind of loop it in, or they might just get put like that. I also thought of getting some little mini clothespins to hang them up. I haven't quite decided how I'm going to actually display them. So that's another little finished object of some kind. The last finished object that I have was also part of the LBK Connections Cal. I showed this yarn to you in the last episode because I had received it for Christmas. Oh dear, where did it go? I had received 2 skeins of To The Max yarn, which has now been rebranded as Frankie Gray, and is a company that was created by Jody of the Grocery Girls and one of her children. And I think now they've sort of rebranded it, and the other daughter, I believe, is taking it on with her. So my friend had given me a skein of DK in the Boardwalk colorway, which is this really beautiful, beautiful speckled yarn. Speckling was gorgeous on this. And then this mohair, which does not have a name. Oh yeah, it was called Pinch Me, sort of fleshy colored mohair. And I really needed a warmer hat because my warmest hat does not fit my head terribly well. So I wanted to make a really warm hat. So what I did was I took the DK and I double stranded the mohair, and I made the Mouton Noir. The Mouton Noir is a pattern by Espace Tricot. And this was a pattern that Lisa and Melissa, I think it may have been their last pattern before they sold the store. And Melissa has posted a couple of pictures of her wearing a Mouton Noir, and I was like, that's it, that's what I need, that's what I'm making. So here it is. It's quite a sticky uppy hat, which I have to say I'm not used to, but this was super duper simple to make, really, really very simple. Stockinette in the round, fold it over, tack these stitches down, and Bob's your uncle, as we would say. Very, very, very simple, and I really, really like it. I was not convinced that this was a great color for me, but I think it's lovely, and I've worn it already all week. As I said, we've been having some crazy cold temperatures, and it's been a great hat to have. I was so happy that I knit it when I knit it, because I needed it. So this was a real joy to knit. I knit it in 2 evenings. The pattern, which is free, asks you to cast on 88 stitches. And I somehow thought, oh, surely that's going to be too small. So I decided to cast on more stitches, and I cast on 96. I got about this far up, and then I realized, no, this is going to be loose. So I ripped it back and I started it as the pattern calls for, the 88 stitches. I knit to the length that the pattern calls for, and I did everything the pattern said to do. I did not modify anything in the end, and it's really great, and I could see another one of these in my future. Very, very, very much like it. Funnily, when I started knitting it the first time, the yarn was speckling perfectly, and the second time there was a little bit of pooling happening. I don't know if you can see the pooling when I changed the number of stitches, but because the speckling is so subtle and beautiful on here, it's really quite okay. So I believe that is what I have for you as far as finished objects. I have been busy finishing things. Now let's get on to whips. So I'm going to start with one that you've seen already, and I won't go through the yarns. I think what I'll do is go through the yarns once I've actually finished the sweater, because there are a lot of yarns in the sweater, and this was my Christmas cast on, which was the stripes sweater. Now, if you pay close attention, you might say, Selma, you're not very far ahead where you were the last time. But if you remember the last time, if you were here, I had accidentally forgotten a set of increases. So I had to rip back, do the third set of increases. There are 4 sets, and then knit down and do the 4th sets. I started knitting on it and was having a great time, once again, getting back into it. But I tried it on once I got into this bright pink color again, and I had finished. And I've done the full set of increases, or all the increases. And I tried it on, and I realized, I think this is going to be actually a tight sweater, a tight fit. There was not a lot of extra happening when I tried it on. And so it's kind of been sitting there waiting for me to get back to it and to decide. I think what I'm going to do is not rip back, not start it again at a larger size. I think my gauge has probably changed. I haven't even checked it yet. I think what I'm going to do is try it on again, check my gauge first of all, try it on again, and then probably do an extra set of increases to add, you know, maybe 30 or 40 extra stitches onto the sweater. That's my thinking, and we'll see how it goes from there. So it doesn't look a whole lot different from the last time, but hopefully next time I see you, it will. So that's all I'm going to tell you about that one for now, which is in this big bucket bag because all the different skeins are in here. This is a bucket bag by Buku, which you've seen many, many times. So that is one of my works in progress. The other work in progress that I cast on, I don't think I cast this on last time. I am making myself a new West Village skirt. And I am part way down. I ended up sewing down part of the waistband with the leftover yarn from the cast on, but I haven't sewed down the rest. So right now it just looks a little bit messy and it really doesn't look more than a tube. But I am making the West Village skirt for myself out of Briggs & Little Regal, which is a worsted weight yarn, worsted Aran. It's quite thick, I have to say, and it's a very robust yarn. Can you see a difference there? You can see it. I had originally bought 2 skeins, and I'm just about finished the first of the 2 skeins that I bought, because originally I was going to make this skirt for someone else who is much smaller than me. And so I knew that with 2 skeins I'd have enough. When I decided to make it for myself, I wanted to make it a little longer than my other 2 West Village skirts. So I decided to buy a 3rd skein, and because this 3rd skein, I could tell even just from looking at the skeins that there was going to be some slight variation, I decided to start the skirt with that skein. I haven't finished it, I just stopped there because I always wear something over the skirt. I never tuck something in, so nobody will notice that. I'm hoping that I'll have enough of my 2 skeins for the rest of the skirt. If I don't, then I'll use, probably what I'll do is in the ribbing, I will stripe this yarn with the other one from the different dye lot, because it ended up being a different dye lot. I went back to the store a year later, and of course they didn't have the dye lot anymore. So yeah, but it's going well. It's, you know, it's an easy knit. Once you figure out your measurements and your stitch count, it really is quite easy, and easy television knitting essentially. So I'm now at the portion where I've finished the hip increases and I'm just going straight down, and it's going just fine. It is in this bag that my friends Paul and Antoine had given me with some yarn that they'd given me in the summer. Unfortunately, it's gotten a little dirty, but it's from a store in Montreal called Crochet et Compagnie, that is in Verdun in Montreal. So I don't know how that got dirty, but it did. But I really like this bag, so I thought I'm going to put the skirt in there. So that is another work in progress. I'm also working in continuation with the Little Big Knits Connections Mal. I had been given a skein of yarn by Donna from Roots and Rain. Donna is the dyer behind Roots and Rain Yarns. She's a natural dyer and uses proudly Canadian sport weight yarn for her feed. This is her field sock base that I'm going to show you in a minute. It's 80% Canadian wool, Corriedale, Dorset, and Suffolk, and 20% nylon. And it is a sport weight sock yarn. And the skein that she had given me, that I had shown you when she gave it to me, is dyed in indigo. And it's a stunning, stunning blue. So I have made one sock using Donna's Northern Comfort pattern. Thank you so much for this yarn, Donna, because I have to say I am in love with this yarn. I'm so glad the skein, I think I'll probably be able to get 2 pairs of socks out of that skein, and I think I might be getting some more of this. So this is the Northern Comfort sock. It's a very, I should have put it on the blocker. It's a very simple pattern for a ribbed sock, cuff down. Now I did a funny little thing on the toe for this sock, which I might change, but I realized that I had almost come to the end of the toe decreases, and I still had a little spot left. So I decided to stop decreases on one side and continue them on the other side, which made the whole thing long enough, but it is kind of funny looking as a result. So this side looks kind of normal, and then this side looks kind of weird. It fits fine because my big toe kind of goes there, but it is a little funny looking in the finished sock. So I'm not sure whether I'll redo this or just do the other one the same way, and that's fine. They fit fine, they're comfortable. I put the sock on, so warm, which is something that I'm gonna talk to you about later, about yarns that are, this is a hand wash, not a superwash yarn, about non-superwash yarns in socks. Definitely there is a warmth factor that is amazing. This is a very rustic, woolly, toothy, robust kind of feeling yarn, and the color of the indigo on the gray base is just beautiful. So that is a sock that I'm working on currently, and I just wanted to show you the Progress Keeper. This is a Progress Keeper that was given to me, well, when I ordered the sock tubes from Homebody Knits, which is run by Donna's daughter, in fact. And she's got, Jessica and Ali have got a sock cranking business, and I got a couple of tubes made, and that Progress Keeper came, and I like it very much, so I decided to put it on this sock. So this is kind of like a mother-daughter sock. So that is a pair of socks that I'm working on right now, that is being housed in this bag that my friend Kate had given to me. So this is also part of the Connections Cal, as the sock yarn was given to me by Donna. So thank you again, Donna. Really, really lovely. So that's another work in progress to share with you. And then the last work in progress that I have is actually not a work in progress quite yet, but will also be part of the LBK Connections Mal. Last time I showed you 2 skeins of this yarn, which is the blacker yarns in their woodland base, which is a all British yarns, and it's a special edition yarn. And Kate, my friend Kate, had given me 2 skeins for Christmas, along with this mug that she had given me, which my tea is in this time. She sent it to me from Ireland. It's by Loaf, which I believe is a pottery and bakery place of some kind. And I've got some fennel tea in here, by the way, just in case you want to know. So she had given me 2 skeins of this, and I really wanted to make a vest, especially after my red vest fiasco, which, by the way, the red vest, I'll just give you an update right now. I decided to go and block it just in case that made a difference, but it didn't. It got slightly bigger, but it still just did not look good on me. So it's been frogged, and it will become another vest at some point, hopefully this year, before Christmas. Let's see if I find something. But I still really wanted a new vest. I really wanted a new vest. So I have decided to make the Noux Sweater, N-O-U-X, by Suvi Simola. I will put up a picture here. It's a sweater pattern, but I decided that I would just do the color work, and I wouldn't add on the sleeves, and it would become a vest. So I also decided that I must have something in my stash to pair with it, and I found this skein of yarn here. This is Solje, the Hillesvåg Solje yarn, in their I think it's their Rosa. This is the Rosa colorway. This is the Rosa colorway. This is the tag, which is this sort of mauve, dusty mauve color. And I have an entire sweater quantity of this. And I thought some of it can go onto here without there being an issue. So I'm going to make the Noux Sweater with this. This will be at the top and this will be the rest of the body. And so far, the only thing I've been able to do is the swatch. I think what I'm gonna do is finish the skirt, which I'll finish this week, and then I'll be able to cast this on as well. Also wanna make a little bit of progress on the striped sweater. And I also have to determine how I feel about the fabric on this. So I think I'm probably going to, I'm finding it a little loose. It's knit on 3.5 millimeter needles, but I think that's just going to be really, really lovely. I'm really looking forward. Not very high contrast, but I'm kind of liking that. I just did, this is actually my first time doing color work flat. I just kind of winged it. The color work didn't come out terribly well. I had problems with the tension, but it was really just for me to see what it would look like. The sweater is knit in the round, so I don't need to worry about that here. And if I were to color work flat, I think I definitely want to practice a little more. But yeah, so I knit this on 3.5 millimeter needles. I'm getting 21-inch gauge. The pattern calls for 22.5. So I might try it with 3.25 millimeter needles and see what happens. I haven't quite decided yet. I'm needing to think about that a little bit. But that is, in a sense, my last work in progress. Not quite a work, I'm in the swatching stage. And it's being housed in this Outlander bag, which is all wrinkly because it was in my closet. This is a bag by Harrington Bags by Claudia Maheu, and she does these wonderful Outlander themed ones. Just excuse the wrinkliness of it. I've got two of her bags, one that I use in the winter and one that I use in the summer, and so it's being housed in there. So that is what we've got in terms of works in progress. Before I move on to the giveaway winner, there were a couple of other things that I wanted to talk to you about. I had a question about my ball winder and Swift. I used to have a Knit Picks ball winder and Swift. And I know lots of people have success with those, but those caused a lot of swearing in this house, I have to say. I usually had problems with them. I don't know why. I just couldn't get them to work properly for me. And so maybe 4 years ago now or so, my husband got me a ball winder and Swift for Christmas. And I think it was, you saw them in the beginning of the last episode, I believe. And so I had a question about them. So I decided to go with an Amish style Swift. And this one is like, now I just forgot the name. I think it's Steinbach. I'll put it down here. So it's the kind that lays on a table, and it has worked extremely well for me, and it's great. You just put the pieces together and put the little pegs in, and it has worked very, very well for me. And then my ball winder is by Strauch. Both of these came from the US. Quite sure Strauch is definitely fabricated in the US. It's a family-owned business, and it has been fabulous. They've both been great. They work well together. Sometimes I get these magical skeins. I don't quite know why. Sometimes I get a magical skein like this, where you've just got this amazing sort of almost optical illusion type thing happening. And then sometimes I get ordinary skeins where they're just like that. You don't see it. It's very strange. I don't know why. There must be a reason. Here you do. Isn't that beautiful? But it always winds well. I haven't had any issues with either of them. They're made out of solid wood. They're really great. So I just wanted to bring that up. And then one other little item quickly before I go to the giveaway winner is I was contacted by somebody who watches the podcast, but who's also run her own knit along. She's got a Ravelry group, and her Ravelry name is Wool Hobby or Vol Hobby, WOLHOBBY. And she did an Advent knit along. She is a Dutch knitter and had a Dutch group on Facebook, but an English group on Ravelry. And apparently it was an extremely big success. I think it hit the media in Holland. So she had a lot of people participating in her knit along. And she's going to be doing another knit along for Lent. And the way her Advent one worked was that she gave out a clue every week. I think it was for a cowl. So if you happen to be looking for something to do like that and would like to do it perhaps at Easter instead of Christmas, she's going to be doing one during Lent. And it's a Lent cowl. So I'll link that group down below on Ravelry so you can check it out, and you can be in contact with her if you want to be involved in the Dutch one. So I wanted to mention that. I thought that was a fun idea. All right, let's go on to the winner of the giveaway. So I spoke to you last time about this stunning red yarn by Alley Cat Yarns, who is a local yarn dyer and whose work I very, very much like. And this is in her smooth sock base, which is 85 merino and 15 nylon. And this is her bicycle red, which is this absolutely classic red. And I was pairing it for you in this Lolubees bag, which is this gorgeous gold fabric and golden velvet fabric up here. And as I said earlier, there were so many wonderful comments regarding your experiences last year, what you were grateful for. And so thank you so much for sharing them. Many of you also have words for the year, and it was really interesting to see some of them. They were very, very interesting. Some of them, you know, sometimes we choose words that are there to sort of soothe us, and other times we choose words that sort of give us a little kick to get us going. So there were all kinds of different words. They're wonderful sharing. So thank you so much for sharing and for being part of this community. And out of the 586 entries, the winner is Linda S. Patton. So Linda S. Patton, please be in touch with me. You can be in touch with me on Instagram or on Ravelry. If you happen to not be on either of those, let me know down below here in YouTube. Otherwise, I'll wait to hear from you in one of those. But you will need to give me your address so that I can send this lovely pairing to you. So congratulations. And thank you to everybody for participating. I had done a whole bunch of giveaways in the beginning of the pandemic, and then I sort of slowed down on that. So I'm kind of thinking that there might be a few. I've got some yarns that were given to me that I realized that I had meant to use them and give them away, and then it didn't happen. So I'll be doing that in the next little while. And that kind of brings us to the end of the normal programming. What I thought I would do was share just a few of my best knits or my favorite knits from 2021. The first thing I wanted to share with you is a pair of socks. So I knit last year. I knit 26 things last year. I knit 10 pairs of socks, 2 of which were gifts. I knit 1 shawl. I've sort of really slowed down on the shawls because I have a lot of them. And especially now that I'm at home all the time, I just don't find that I wear them. I wore them a lot for commuting or going out. So I thought, you know, I really have more shawls than I need at this point. In fact, I probably should go through them and see if there are any I could give away that I just never wear. But I tend to wear them when I'm out and about, and because I'm not out and about that much, I don't wear them as much. There are the few that I wear all the time. So I only knit 1, and that was the, what was it called? I cannot remember. I'll put it down here. I knit that at the beginning of the year. I'll put a picture up here too, just so you can see. I knit 14 sweaters. In those 14, 5 were gifts. I made a sweater for Alejandro, and then 2 ranunculus sweaters that were gifts, and then 2 ripple bralettes. And out of the rest of that 14, there were 2 cardigans and some sweaters. And then I knit 1 pair of fingerless gloves, which you saw in December. So I'm just going to start with the socks that I wanted to mention, because it kind of goes in line with a question that I also received in the YouTube comments. I received a question or a kind of more of a comment about non-superwash, non-nylon socks versus superwash. And I hadn't really thought much about the difference between them in terms of, obviously there's the care that is obviously different, because non-superwash yarns you're going to need to wash by hand, whereas superwash yarns you can put in the machine, and I usually put them on delicate. But the person had commented on the warmth, the difference in warmth, and I don't remember if it was that person or somebody else also had commented about that superwash wool can cause their feet to sweat a lot, whereas non-superwash wool doesn't. And I really had not given it much thought. However, I made these dreaming of spring socks. You'll recall, perhaps, this is a pattern by This Handmade Life, and I had made this out of a pair, skein that my friend Kate had given to me of woolly mammoth and her natural sock, which is a 100% non-superwash wool. There's no nylon in it either. And I realized when I put these on, they are a thin sock. It's not particularly thin. It's a thick. It's a 4-ply sock. But the heat that my feet feel from these socks is different than from my superwash socks. So I wanted to give these a special mention because they really kind of blew me away in the beautiful warmth that they give. I feel like I probably need to be a little careful. There's a lot of pilling and fuzzing happening on this yarn, and I really want to see how they're going to wear. But the warmth on them is really, really lovely. Another pair of socks that I had made with non-superwash were these Mondim ones that you may recall. That I haven't noticed it as much with these socks. So I'm going to be wearing them now. I just washed these 2 and pay a little bit more attention. But the yarn that I used for the heels, toes, and this stripe here at the top is the Regia Premium Merino Yak yarn. I made a whole pair of socks out of this yarn, and then I used it for the toes, heels, and the stripe here. And I have to say that actually I don't love this yarn because it's a wonderful feeling yarn, but there is definitely something in this yarn that does not bring heat. In fact, my feet are often cold when I wear this yarn, and I find that really odd. And I don't know if it's something in the treatment of the yarn or what it is. So I'm gonna have to wear the other socks a little bit more to really try and figure out, like, what is the different kind of feeling experience heat-wise that my feet are feeling with all these different socks. But certainly the ones by Woolly Mammoth, I was so surprised by the really nice heat that they generated on my feet. So I want to try these a little bit more, and then I'll report back on those. But there are 3 sweaters that I would like to mention from last time. Oh, this smells good. These 3 sweaters, which all happen to be blue. Isn't that interesting? Or in the bluish range. So the first one I was wearing last time, and many of you commented on how beautiful it is, and I really do love my Silver Forest sweater by Jennifer Steingass. I made this last winter, and it really is so beautiful. It's just an absolutely gorgeous sweater. It's wonderful to wear. The wool, which is a Finnish wool called Pirkkalanka, This is their thinner version. They've got a fingering and a worsted. Is really lovely and light and warm to wear, and it's really pretty. And I was very much inspired by one of the sweaters that is on the pattern page. I think it may be by Camille Lavad, actually. I think it was her version, could be. I was inspired by it, and I thought, what is it that I like about it? And I liked the fact that in here, she used a different color than what she had used here. And so I did the same thing. I bought this yarn when I was in Finland in 2018, and I had spent a lot of time in the store with the woman trying to figure out, and I finally did, and I'm very, very happy with my choice. I absolutely love this sort of lime olive green that's there. Absolutely love it. So I think the next time I go to Finland, I'll be going back to Menitha and probably buying myself some more Pirkkalanka. I actually have enough of this yarn to make myself, well, I probably have enough of this yarn to make a striped sweater, but I actually had thought about making a Vertices Unite. Although now I'm starting to think maybe I should make a striped sweater. We'll see, but there's enough yarn that I want to make something with it. So that was definitely one of my favorite knits from last year. The other favorite knit that I made last year is another colorwork sweater. And it's this after party sweater by Astrid Troland, who I believe is Bichet-Bush. So this is originally knit in Bichet-Bush yarn. And this came from one of the Line magazines. It's got a little bit of detail at the bottom, very simple. This one is a bottom up sweater. And I wear this all the time. This is my go-to. It's very warm, and as well as the other one, light. It's also a fingering weight yarn. This is made out of Studio Donegal Darnie, which I got when I was in Ireland in 2019. And then I used a, what was it, Jameson & Smith jumper weight that I got at Wabi Sabi, my local yarn store, to go with it. And it's just, it's comfy, it's cozy, it's got a nice amount of ease. In fact, both sweaters do. It's just really great. The only thing was that I got a hole in it. I think I probably pulled on a branch or who knows what, it snagged somewhere. And my friend Liz is the darner in the family. So I was like, can you fix this for me? So she darned, whoops, it's right there, to the best of her ability, and did it. I mean, it's so dark that you just don't notice it. It's there. And so I was a little bit disappointed in that, but it really doesn't matter in the long run. This is a woolen spun yarn. And I think I'd mentioned to you earlier that I feel like woolen spun yarns have more of a tendency to fray stuff. So I'm keeping an eye on this, and I'm going to make sure to keep whatever I do with the rest of the yarn, because I have a skein and a bit of this. I will make sure to keep a little bit to fix the ends or darn should I ever have any other issues with it. But absolutely, absolutely love this. Maybe I'll wear it for you next time because I don't think you've seen it in a while. And then the last thing I want to share with you from last year is my Elton Cardigan, which if you've been around, I finished it this fall. I still haven't put buttons on it. The buttons are sitting there. They're just not going on it, but I really enjoy this cardigan. It is an absolute delight to wear. I keep thinking maybe I should make a red one. Maybe rather than a red ranunculus, I should make a red Elton. Anyway, such a lovely cardigan, light, cozy, and a really nice fit. It just fits very nicely. So I very, very much enjoy this. And I love, 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 love this color. And the yarn is also by Alley Cat Yarns in her Harbor colorway. This was her, I believe this was her BFL sock yarn. And then the mohair she dyed to go with this. And yeah, it's absolutely a delight to wear. and I'm very, very glad I have it. I also made the bindweed last year, which took me quite a while to make. You'll recall, and it's really beautiful. It's just not one that I go to all the time. It's kind of a bit fancier. It's a raglan construction and it's open, and I have to say it tends to slide off a lot. So I do reach for that one less, but it's very pretty. So if I need to look good for a Zoom meeting, I'll often have that one on with a black t-shirt or something. So yeah, very much like it. I made 2 cardigans, and I definitely want to make a vest this year, at least one vest, and at least another cardigan this year, because there's such useful pieces to have. And I do have a feeling that in 2022, this one is going to become a favorite. So those are the knits from 2021 that I wanted to share with you. I also have to say that I kind of haven't talked about the books that I've read recently. I finished the 4-book series by Elena Ferrante, the My Brilliant Friend series. It's actually called the Neapolitan Novels. You'll recall that I didn't like it after the first book, but then I watched the TV series and was totally drawn in. So I read the 2nd book, watched the 2nd series, totally drawn in, read the 3rd book, felt like I think I've had enough of this, but I really need to know what happens at the end. So I read the 3rd and the 4th book in late fall. I always say read, but I listen to them on Audible. And you know what? They're okay. I honestly don't think they're particularly well written, but yet a very compelling story. And I'm glad that I got through them. And I'm really hoping that they make a series, they make a TV version of the books 3 and 4, because they're books that translate into screen really, really well and almost tell the story better somehow. But yeah, not my best. My best books from, and then I also read, Midnight Library by Matt Haig, which I really enjoyed, and The Night She Disappeared, which is a new book by Lisa Jewell, which I also really enjoyed. Definitely Lisa Jewell is still my favorite mystery writer. I haven't come across somebody else that I like as much as her. Something about her balance with the mystery, but the characters as well. The characters are really important, and they're full characters, and I really like her books. But my 3 favorite books from last year were The Book of Longings by Sue Monk Kidd, which was my first book last year, and I think I said at the time, I will be surprised if anything tops this. It really remained in my top 3. It was a stunning, stunning book. Loved it. Beautifully written, beautiful story, and just, it touched me in many, many ways. I really, really liked it. And then the book that I read after that also became one of my favorite books this year, which is The Book of Joy, which was a conversation between the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu, and facilitated by Douglas Abrams. And it's nonfiction. I listened to it, which was a great way to get through that book. It's so lovely to listen to, because you feel like you're sitting in a room with the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu. They've chosen narrators with their accents. And it was such a good book. It's almost the book that I would read again when I need to connect back to the world, kind of thing, where you feel like you're off center. I think it's a great book for just thinking about getting yourself grounded a little bit, thinking just about finding joy, really, in the world. And they're both such formidable spiritual leaders in our world. And we lost Desmond Tutu recently, and I have to say that touched me a lot, because he's someone I have adored for decades. He gave so much and was such a bright and positive. I don't think I could ever think about Desmond Tutu without getting a smile on my face, because he always spoke with such a beautiful smile. So yeah, loved that book. And then the last book that I think were like, these are what I thought, what were my top 3 books? It was boom, boom, boom. It came to me very easily. Road Ends by Mary Lawson, who is a Canadian writer and writes about a fictitious town in Northern Ontario, sorry. And that was her 3rd book. It came out a good decade ago. And I was really glad to have read it. Her books are always about dysfunctional families in a Northern Ontario setting. And I just love the way the building of her characters, the stories between them. Not a whole lot happens. They're very ordinary stories, but I just really, really, really like them a lot. And she came out with a new book last year called A Town Called Solace. So that is on my list to read this year. So I'm starting to lose my voice, so it's probably a good time for me to sign off for today. January, as I said, has been a decent month so far. And before I cough some more, this happens to me every time I podcast, I'll leave it here and wish you a good next couple of weeks or 3 weeks until I see you next time. Hopefully our weather will let up and I can do a little bit more outside time. I don't have a huge amount of footage for you this time. It's just one of those times. And but we'll see you again next time, hopefully with more lovely everyday life, getting out into the world and telling you more about my knits. So until then, take care of yourselves. We'll see you then.
The stars have come in close just to see you, I suppose, and they're a-gleaming. You must be dreaming, and the sun has said goodbye with a twinkle in his eye. He's left the ocean with sweet emotion. We go dancing in the rain, riding on a midnight train, away so slowly. And the moon is looking down on the sleepy side of town, and he's so lonely. I love you only. I love you only. All the birds have taken flight. It's their favorite time of night, when they can hear you from somewhere near you. And the palm trees try to bend to be closer to their friends. They're made of magic. Reach out and grab it. We go dancing in the rain, riding on a midnight train, away so slowly. And the moon is looking down on the sleepy side of town,